Hey there, wellness family. Peter here. Thank you for clicking on today's video, which is all about how your unconscious biases could be ruining your relationship. So thank you again for clicking on today's video. As always, if you could do me a small favor, hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell to make sure you're notified each Thursday when I post a brand new video. And if you feel so inclined, feel free to share this video, comment on it, like it, all that good stuff. So let's get into the heart of today's topic, which is all about how your unconscious biases could be ruining your relationship. What exactly do I mean by that? Now, you ever hear that saying where they say, be careful what you look for because you might find it? Well, this is kind of what this is all about. It's that we have these unconscious thoughts and we don't realize how much they dictate how we live and how, in fact, we relate to other people. Let me explain. Now, these thoughts that I'm referring to exist either on the subconscious or the conscious level. And psychotherapists refer to them as confirmation biases. Now, exactly what is a confirmation bias? Let me give you a simple explanation. Let's say you think that all black men are inherently violent. Well, if you see a black male doing something remotely violent, you're going to say, see, I told you, they're all violent. So in essence, you're confirming your own bias without giving that individual the benefit of the doubt. Follow me so far? Okay, let's keep going. Now let's put this in the context of, say, relationships. Now, let's say you grew up with a mother and a father, and you saw that your father consistently cheated on your mother. And the one thing you noticed was that when your father would come home late, your mother would accuse him of cheating. And in fact, he was. Now you've grown up, and what you've come to associate with people coming home late from work is that they must be doing something else. So now you are married with your husband or your wife or whatever, and you notice that they keep coming home from work late. In your head, you have this bias that they must be out there cheating. So you start to find whatever it is you can find to confirm your own biases. The person could just simply be working late. The person may have just stopped to have a drink or two with co-workers, just to bond with them here and there. But in your mind, you have confirmed this bias that this individual is cheating on you. So what do? You keep nagging them, you keep pushing them, and eventually that relationship breaks. So that's a very sort of simplistic way of how a confirmation bias could affect your relationship. And it happens in many different things, from finances to sex life. All those variables can be affected by confirmation biases. And so within the context of a relationship, one can perhaps argue that confirmation biases really are a form of insecurity or perhaps even low self-esteem. So how does one prevent themselves from succumbing or being overridden by their confirmation biases? Well, I think there are 4 key things we can do to prevent ourselves from allowing our confirmation biases, because believe it or not, we all have some type of confirmation bias, but I think there are 4 key things we can do to prevent them from affecting our relationships. Let's get into them. So number 1, seek therapy. Why do I say this? If your confirmation biases are constantly eroding your relationship, now I'm not saying it affects one relationship, maybe it's multiple relationships. Look back in your life. If you find that your confirmation biases have constantly ruined your relationships, it's time for you to kind of step back and figure out what's going on with you, right? And therapy is a good way of being able to kind of unpack the issues that may be triggering these types of biases or these types of thoughts. Therapy, again, could come in the form of speaking to a psychologist or a therapist. Therapy could also be talking to a confidant, a spiritual advisor, a pastor, whatever the case may be. But talk to someone, work through these thoughts in your head and figure out where they're coming from, because that can prevent you from having these biases that over time that will affect relationships in general. So hope that one makes sense. Let's get into number 2. Number 2, develop self-awareness. Now, self-awareness can come from therapy, but self-awareness can come from you just doing the work, right? Working on yourself. Understand what motivates you. Understand what your triggers are. Self-awareness allows you to check yourself when you begin to think irrational thoughts, right? So I would definitely encourage you to work on your self-awareness. And it's really all about being truthful about who you are. It's not being afraid to look at your shortcomings and your strengths and say, you know what, at the end of the day, I love myself, right? So self self-awareness really allows you to check yourself so you don't go too far down that road of being insecure or lacking self-esteem. Hope that makes sense. Let's get into number 3. Number 3, ask for a second opinion. Now, what do I mean by this? I believe we all need to have a confidant in our life, a confidant, a mentor, someone that we look up to. But this individual must, in my opinion, have lived some type of life and must also have a clear head and must really, really think objectively about life. The more self-aware they are, the better, of course, right? And you want to have this individual in your life because when you have these biased thoughts or, again, these confirmation biases about your partner, what you want to do is to be able to go to that individual and say, hey, am I going down the right path or is it me being biased, right? And you must be open to that individual freely talking to you without taking it personally. Because a lot of the times that individual can help you walk back from that ledge and realize that in a lot of ways you're doing yourself more harm than good. Hope that makes sense. Let's get into the last one, number 4. Number 4. Make time for yourself. Now, what do I mean by this and what does this have to do with preventing our confirmation biases from affecting our relationship? Here's what I think. Now, this is my opinion. This is not science-based, but this is my little humble opinion. I think that when a lot of us have confirmation biases, yes, some of it is due to past experiences, but some of it within the context of relationship where I have seen could be tied into the fact that we don't make time for ourselves, meaning we don't have our own identity. So we're trying to find an identity within the context of that relationship, or some argue it's a form of codependency. Now, I believe that this can cause the confirmation biases to get bigger than they are, right? Because we don't have our own space, we don't have our own time. So it's never a bad idea if you're within a relationship and you're noticing that you're having these constant thoughts, that maybe it's time for you to take a step back, right? And just create time for yourself. Create time to just be with you, right? And not be so wrapped up in your relationship. Because at the end of the day, if you are not right, that relationship is not going to make you right. You both have to come into it with the right type of mindset in order for the relationship to be right. And as always, it is a constant work in progress. So I hope that makes sense. Make time for yourself. So I hope all of that makes sense to you, but I must say this. Confirmation biases a lot of the times can be right within the context of a relationship. If you think the guy's cheating, there's a possibility that he is. So also still trust your gut, all right? But just make sure that your confirmation biases are just not driving you into the ground. You're not driving yourself crazy. I hope this all makes sense and I hope this information resonated with you. And as always, family, stay well.